Today, we're diving into the hidden genius behind one of the most iconic wardrobes in history, and we're going to see how it was less about fashion and more like a form of architecture. I mean, look at this. You know exactly who this is, right? There's no face, no name, just a shape. That's because this silhouette, it was literally engineered to be burned into our brains. And trust me, that kind of instant recognition, that was no accident. It was a deliberate, calculated blueprint. In a word, it was architecture. So let's start there, with the silhouette itself, which Jackson basically treated like a logo. He turned the literal shape of his body into one of the most famous brands on the entire planet.
See, this was a huge, conscious shift away from all those flowing, glittery styles of 70s disco. He started working with designers Michael Bush and Bill Whitten, and together they embraced these really sharp, structured, military-style silhouettes. The whole point was never just to wear cool clothes. It was to create movable sculptures.
And this right here, this was the ultimate goal, for the shape of his body to be instantly recognizable even in total darkness. Just think about that for a second. That's not fashion. That is branding on a whole other level.
But this idea went way beyond just making cool shapes. It led to engineering garments that should have been impossible, where fashion actually became a piece of functional technology. Which of course brings us to the most famous example of all time. How in the world did he pull this off? How did he and his dancers just defy the laws of gravity?
Well, the answer wasn't magic. It was an actual invention. The patented stage shoe. It's a specially designed shoe with a slot cut right into the heel, all for one incredible purpose: to physically anchor him to the stage floor.
And the mechanism was just as slick as the move itself. The performers walked to a very specific spot on the stage. Then, right on cue, a little metal peg rises up from the floor. They just slide the heel of that special shoe right onto the peg, and bang, they're anchored. Simple, brilliant, and just pure engineered magic. But you know, this kind of innovation created a massive challenge. On the one hand, Jackson wanted the super detailed, complex look of Parisian couture. But on the other hand, as one of the world's most athletic performers, he needed clothes that were lightweight, breathable, and totally functional. Fusing those two opposite worlds, well, that was the real genius. And this whole design philosophy, it wasn't just for the big, flashy jackets. It was all about the power of the accessory. Jackson was a master at using the tiniest details to command the attention of an entire stadium.
And it really all starts with this number, 1.
The single crystal-encrusted glove. Now, this wasn't some random fashion choice, no way. It was a calculated focal point, a piece of visual tech designed to make every single person's eyes snap right to his incredibly rhythmic hand movements. It was basically a spotlight that he wore.
And he used the exact same logic for his feet. I mean, think about it. Normally, a dancer's amazing footwork just gets lost on a dark stage, especially if you're in a giant arena. But the Jackson method, the high water pants and the sparkling white socks, created this incredible high contrast effect. It made every single step, every slide, every spin a can't-miss focal point, even for the people in the absolute last row. This whole style eventually got a name: pop armor. The armbands, the metal shin guards, they weren't just for show. They created this look that was somehow both defensive and powerful. It was like he was symbolizing both vulnerability and strength at the exact same time. And yeah, it ended up influencing street style for decades.
So this powerful visual language, it wasn't just for the stage. It almost became a form of global diplomacy through couture. The wardrobe itself was a tool he used to communicate across any cultural barrier, without ever having to say a single word.
That military chic style, it was more like royal regalia. The structure and authority of a military uniform is a visual that people understand all over the world. So by using those historical designs, he was creating this timeless, global image of himself, blurring the lines between pop star and like a world leader.
And he cemented this by collaborating with the absolute pinnacle of high fashion. When legendary houses like Givenchy and Balmain were creating pieces for him, they weren't just dressing a musician. They were fusing the exclusive world of Parisian couture with the raw energy of a pop concert. It completely changed the game, blurring the lines between the runway and the stadium tour.
So what does this all really add up to? Well, it adds up to nothing less than a blueprint for stardom. An entirely new approach that left a permanent mark on what performance art even is. And if you walk away with just one idea from this whole explainer, let it be this one: rhythmic utility. It's the big idea behind everything we've talked about. The principle that every single thing a performer wears, from the jacket all the way down to a sock, has to have a purpose. It should actively make their movements better and make their visual brand stronger.
Seriously, you can draw a direct line from his blueprint back in the 80s to how pretty much every modern pop icon today treats their visuals as a core part of their brand. And if we look to the future, that same principle is already shaping things like AI fashion design and virtual avatars for digital concerts.
At the end of the day, Jackson's whole philosophy of rhythmic utility is still the gold standard. It's the benchmark for any artist trying to merge high art aesthetics with intense physical performance. It's a formula that continues to define what it means to be a true performance artist.
Which leaves us all with one really fascinating question to think about. If a wardrobe can be this strategic, this engineered, what's the next frontier for performance architecture going to look like?